Alright, hello everyone, how's it going? Today I will be doing my first set of videos for example solves, starting with Crater Ellis or Quinton's submission. For these solves, I encourage you to follow along with the scrambles that I'm doing to see what you did versus what the person who submitted the videos did versus what I did. Just to kind of see overall what you can improve on or what's good about yours, what's not good about yours, etc. So definitely just follow along if you'd like to. And yeah, let's just get right into the very first scramble. Okay, so what I noticed for this scramble, first things first, some of the flaws that I did notice right off the bat were just in terms of first pair. But for this scramble, in addition to that, was the cross not being the greatest. Now, I know from your previous videos or your previous solves that you submitted to me, that the cross isn't really that big of an issue, but in this case it was. However, I understand it was like a bit of a fluke. So what you did here was you wanted to make the orange in relation with the green. So you did D, F, and then D, and then I think you forgot that the blue had to go here, and you were anticipating it to be like a green, so you can go like a simple insertion like that, but obviously that doesn't work, so you had to you paused, and you're like, oh, okay, I have to go like this, and then you inserted. So obviously that wasn't ideal, but I can understand like that was just a bit of a mishap. However, the overall solution that you did, like if we get rid of the the mistake that you made, the cross solution technically could have still been better. So from a more efficient perspective, right, instead of doing this D, F, you're using a lot of these Fs, and there's going to be a regrip inevitably coming. Instead of that, you could have held the cube like on this side, right over here, and then you could have done D, R, D, R prime, F, and then R2. So you see how there's 0 regrips with that? It's a lot more of a finger trick friendly solution. All right, now in addition to that, I kind of want to talk about your first pair, so your transition from cross to F12, because I noticed that that's a little bit of an area that you need to improve on, just to make your solves a bit more seamless and for you to gain momentum, which overall helps significantly improve your solving speed. So I'm just gonna R2, F, R. Okay, yeah, so I just reversed it here. So let's say like in regards to that solve that I just did with the cross in terms of how I would track my first pair, what's really important to notice is like, okay, what pieces am I gonna do that are used that is gonna move the corner piece in the top layer? So I know that with like orange, for instance, when I move it over here, any piece that comes over here is going to go in the top layer because of the blue. So I notice that there's a corner right over here, and if I move it, and it's actually the corresponding edge is already attached to it, which is even better. But if I move it over here, I know that once I do a D2, right, it's going to be in the vicinity of blue for it to be brought up. So like the overall net movement is that this blue is going to bring this up, and I can keep that as an option for my first pair. Now, it's obviously not the most ideal first pair, and when I'm doing that, I would like want to keep my eyes open for any other better pairs. So in this case, it would be this two, but I keep this in the back of my mind, and then okay, then I have this, so I'd solve that, but then I'd eventually solve the blue and orange. In that case, I got pretty lucky with a lot of stuff. Anyways, so it's important to kind of like keep in mind of what you can do for first pair and seeing like, okay, if I'm going to move this piece up, which corner piece would I need to have in that position for it to be in the top layer, right? It wouldn't make sense for me to, let's say, look at this piece because I know that my final movement, right, when I'm inserting the blue, this is just going to be attached to the red and it's just going to go in the bottom. So it's not going to be a best use for me there. And then another thing I wanted to point out, which is like when you're trying to do this first pair, The cross that I just solution that I did, or what you did, but I just showed you from a different angle, is technically harder in a sense to find the first pair. It's still manageable, but like you want to make your life a bit easier. So you don't want to do all these mental gymnastics too much when finding your first pair. A nicer one would be just to do like a D2, and then you insert the blue and then the red, and then you insert the green, because like there's a lot less stuff going on in the top layer for there to be like for you to like have to track and all that. So like again, if we did the D2 solution, of course, like we can keep this pair in mind with how it's like I do a D2 and then I just lift it up, and then everything else here, like when I'm doing these other two moves, is going to be completely unaffecting this part. So it's very easy to track compared to D, R, D, because like it's like more movements that are like kind of taking you away from looking at like how this piece is affected. So it's just a lot easier to say D2, F, and then noticing that these insertion is not going to affect this, so you could already know your first pair just from those two moves. But anyway, yeah, let's take a look at what you did for your first pair and see what I can do what you could have done to improve it. Okay, so for your first pair, what you noticed while you were solving your cross was that there is this block already formed, and yeah, that's frankly fine. I would have in my cross, of course, when I was looking at my F12, I would have looked at it, I would have done my execution from here, and B, I would have tracked this. But this is a fine F12 technically to start with, considering that this is not like the best state, and assuming that you wouldn't have tracked this, so like this isn't a bad idea. And I think what you did here, because you held it from here, was L, you just took out the block, and then one thing that I really liked what you did was that you inserted it in the back, because when you're solving your F12, it's best to insert the pairs or like do cases where the F12 pair is going into the back, just so that you can better see what other pieces that you solve for your next F12 cases, and that it's also a lot more manageable to solve. Because like, let's say you had a triple sexy at the back here, it's so much worse to do it from here at the back versus like right when it's in front of you. So solving pairs at the back makes your life a lot more easier for upcoming F12 pairs. So I appreciated that. However, one thing that I would have liked is maybe not like a U and then a rotation, although it's fine, like it's not a bad idea, but if you just did like a D prime, it might have been a bit better, because like having that habit is something I noticed with a lot of advanced cubers where they don't do rotation and a turn at the same time, but like they use the D layers a lot. That's kind of a nitpicky thing. You don't have to worry about it too much, but yeah, you can implement that if you like. But yeah, so you did this, and then for your second pair, you did the red blue, which I thought was okay. You could have also done this too, in the sense of you doing the D layer and then inserting it over here, but it's not like the worst solutions or worst pair to solve. Like it's definitely like fine. I can understand why you would go for this, considering that it was fairly visible. But while I'm solving this, it's best to like keep these two in mind of how you're gonna what next case you're gonna get, because it's likely that these two are gonna be your next pair. But anyway, the way that you solved this was pretty standard. I would have done the same if I was solving this, which is like this, and then you insert it in the back again, which was good. So for your third pair, you did the orange and blue, which is understandable considering that the green and the orange pair is like a little harder to solve. It involves a rotation, but this can be solved without any rotation, so it's good that you targeted this. Now the execution that you did was interesting. You did a U prime to have this here, and then you took this edge out, and then you did like this type of case here. That's not bad, but something that's probably better is just to do this out, which I really like, which is having this corner at the back here and doing R2, U2, R2 prime, U prime, R2, U prime, R2. As you can tell from that, it's like a lot less moves, and it's really, really easy to execute. It's pretty smooth. So I'd encourage you to opt to switch to that alg. And then finally, you had this green and then orange pair that you solved. Again, you did another thing, which was the rotation. Sorry, you took out the edge. it's probably best with these type of cases to really look at the different F12 algs because there are going to be a lot more efficient solutions. There is one alg out there that for this specific case that I'm going to put on the screen here. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's something like FR, yeah, it's like that, which is okay. It's just that it has a lot of regroups, and as of now, in my own cubing experience, it's not very easy for me to execute, but maybe others would find it good. But what I instead would have done, and it's not like it's much better, but it's just like an alternative, which just do U2 and like at the same time kind of rotate, and then pair these two up and then insert with the sledge like that. That's what I personally would have done. Again, there's that other efficient alg. If you're able to execute it quite well, then good for you. But yeah, so maybe something you can consider. And then in regards to your OLL and PLL, I thought they were done pretty well, and they used the standard alg, so not really many complaints there. You just had that OLL and then a U-perm. Yeah, thought they were fine. Okay, for your second solve, I thought first of all your cross was really well thought out. I really liked the efficiency of it. So what you did was you noticed that there was a green that could bring this orange down, and that you can use this red to solve the blue. So what you did, and I like the wide moves that you used here, which was small r, and then you did a D to bring this down and also set the orange up, and then you did an R prime, and then you inserted this like that. Now, your look ahead again from in terms of transition wasn't the greatest here, and we can like take a look at how we can make this a bit better in terms of how to conceptualize where the first pair is going to be using this cross. So again, when I'm trying to find the first pair of from my cross, it's important to understand what the cross pieces would bring up. So what corner pieces of the cross piece would bring up. In this case, right, let's take a look at it from a chronological order, right? So when I'm inserting this green, I'm going to bring it down here, and I'm actually going to bring this corner piece up here, which is nice, but it's also going to be attached to this orange. So, and because the orange is going to be sandwiched in between here, it's not really going to be a helpful solution. But then we can look at orange, right? So when I'm inserting this green, this is going to be connected, and the orange is going to bring this one here. Now that's a good thing because I know that this blue is going to bring this piece up here when I'm inserting it. And if I were to think of another piece that could bring up a corner piece, it's going to be this red, right? If any corner is going to be over here, when I insert it, it's going to be up. And what would that be, for instance, right? Well, that would be this blue over here, this blue-red, because when I insert this green, this is going to come right over here. Now, it just so happened that the piece that's probably best to track is going to be this one because it's going to give you a free pair. But even if you were tracking this, just having it in mind is going to be super duper helpful for what your first pair might be, or even second pair, because you're going to see this first pair being aligned. You're like, okay, I'm going to solve this first, but I'm going to keep this one in the back of my head for my second pair. So yeah, you can do that. Now, I understand that obviously doing all this tracking, especially if you're new to figuring out what your first pair might be from the cross, is going to be quite hard to visualize. So my biggest advice is always to do like the cross solution that's like easiest to conceptualize what your first pair might be. So in this case, an alternative cross solution that's going to be easier for you to perhaps go into your transition smoothly into your F12 is to do this. So D, U prime, R prime, F, because like you don't have that many pieces. You're not like going all over the place with your visualization. It's relatively localized to just this. And you can easily visualize, okay, what pieces am I bringing up? What am I not bringing up? So like for instance, with that cross and trying to find the first pair, what I'm trying to do is see what like, for instance, the green and the orange might bring up in terms of corner pieces. So let's say I'm executing it right. I want to see, all right, is this going to bring up anything? Oh, yep, there's a corner right here that can bring up. Is this going to bring up anything? Nope, there's not going to be a white corner that's going to bring up. And hopefully that'll be a lot easier in terms of deciding your first pair and going from there. Okay, so for your first pair, you obviously went with this free pair right here, which is very tempting. And of course, I would have done the same. However, the way that you did it, of course, because of your look ahead being weak, was not the most efficient because you're doing U prime, all that stuff, rotations, and of course that took away some time from your solve. What I did like, of course, is, and this is a good habit that you have, which is inserting it in the back. So you went like this and inserted it. Now, from the angle that you had right over here, and especially if your look ahead was strong enough in which that you can just quickly transition into doing this out from your cross. But anyways, the out for inserting this into the back here is actually quite nice, and I recommend that you do it, which is R2, F, R, F prime, R like that. It's a lot faster, of course, and there's less moves. There's not any rotations compared to just going like this into the back. So I definitely recommend you switching to that. But anyway, so we're like this. And then for your second pair, you did orange and green. Honestly, if I was doing it, I would have done these two right over here, because I mean, you can just quickly like insert, do a D, and like do keyholing and insert from here. Actually, sorry, your angle is probably going to be the back over here, but even better actually, which is just quickly go like this. So when you were like solving this pair, it would have been good for you to note there was an edge already solved in case of any keyholing arises, such that when you had it from the back here, oh, well, I know this is going to be red, so all I have to do is this, and then yeah, you can just go on from there. But anyways, you did this one, and the way that you solved it was fairly standard. You just went like R, U prime, R, U prime, R prime, U, and then you rotate it, and then you insert it in the back. Again, like you can do like a D prime or something to insert it in the back. I think that's a little bit more effective and probably a better habit, but it's a nitpicky thing. But anyway, yeah, so you insert that's in the back, and then your third pair was this one, which is probably the most obvious pair, considering that it's harder to see these two. Now, something to keep in mind, and this comes up with like a good practice of like look ahead in general, but is thinking of like, okay, what's the most effective way of solving this pair such that it sets up a second pair? And in this case, it's actually not targeting this one, but it's to do this pair right here. So it would have been good if you, again, had that insight of keyhole, or just knowing that there was a edge here for you to manipulate. Because let's say I took this and I set this up and I want to take this out. When I do that, I'm going to insert this right over here, and then I can just go like that and insert this. So it's a really nice setup. But instead you just did this one first, which is all right, and it's honestly going to be pretty easy then to track these two. But yeah, you just did L, U2, L, and then U, and then just insert it like that, which is fine. And then you did this one, which was pretty standard way of solving it, which was you went like this, and you did R, U2, R prime, and then you insert it like that. And yeah, your OLL was also fairly standard, good execution. And then your G perm was really interesting. I use a different G perm, but I think you get your G perms from J perm, and I thought your execution was also really, really good. But I'll just do what you did, which was R2, U prime, R, U prime, R, U, R prime, U, and then R2, U, D, R, U, R, D, and then you did A, U, F. It's a pretty hard alg to execute, not gonna lie, but you did it very well, so good for you. The alg that I use instead is just like this one. I'll also post it on the screen. It's also pretty nice in my opinion, but whatever you're most comfortable with. Again, your execution was pretty good. So yeah. Okay, so for your third solve, starting with your cross, I thought that this cross out of all your solves was the worst in terms of efficiency because there was just a lot going on, and not only was it a pain to execute, but I'd imagine like even trying to find a first pair from that type of cross is going to be very, very difficult because you're just going to be all over the place doing these mental gymnastics. But essentially, what you did was that you noticed that this red and the green could be in relation, and then you can force this orange also in relation. So you did like B prime, R prime, and then you inserted this one like this, and FL, and then you regripped, right, and then you did like an R prime D, and then you did a B prime like that to insert the blue, which again, like it's really, really complicated to execute. You're kind of going all over the place. You have like B moves and regrips. Definitely not the most efficient cross, and definitely going to be very, very difficult for you to track a first pair, for you to seamlessly transition from cross to F2L. So like alternatives to that would be like holding it like from over here, so red facing me, and using the blue to force this in relation with the orange, and then keeping in mind that the green and the red would be in relation with each other. And then in terms of first pair, it's just whatever like the red and the green can collectively bring up when I'm doing like this as my final move. But anyway, so it'll be like this, R prime, F, R2, and in this case right over here, when I do the D prime, this is going to allow the red to bring it in a position which green can bring it up, so that can be like my first pair, like that. And then if I was tracking the edge, I'd also know where it is, and then I can just go into solving that. And then secondly, like an alternative to that, and this is probably a lot easier to conceptualize for your first pair, is just to solve this blue and then have the red, green, and orange all in relation. So solve it like this, and then again, like I can use the the red to bring a piece here, just like green can bring it up. So in this case, it would be this corner right here, and I can go like that, and then solve this orange just like so. And of course, if I'm tracking the edge, I can go into solving my A. Okay, and then in terms of your first pair, after you kind of finally understood like, oh, what's my first pair going to be, you went for red and the green, which of course, obviously the best one is going to be these two, but given the state that you were in terms of you're not able to find what might be your first F2L pair from your cross, I can understand why this would be your first pair, because like it's the thing that's like right in front of you, and this is like hidden in the back, so it's kind of harder to tell. But just like a tip in general, like whenever you're doing your cross, and I do this all the time, and like I can't find what my first pair is when figuring out what my cross would be, I just solve my cross really slowly and see where pieces end up, so that I can just go into a smooth transition. Because at the end of the day, that smooth transition is so much more impactful for saving your solve speed than like doing the cross really fast and then spending countless seconds looking around to find your next first pair. But anyway, sorry, I'm rambling. Yeah, so then you solve this, which is fine. There's no complaints with that. And then your second pair, you did the red and blue, and you kind of had to look back like this, which is understandable. However, of course, by then I probably would have noticed this, and it would be a lot more effective. I don't know if you did notice this, but you're like, no, I'm going to opt for this because it's solving the back, which is understandable too. But yeah, like I probably would have went with this instead. And the way that you solved it was, well, first of all, you had like a lot of moves, of course. But anyway, what you ended up doing was taking this one out and then inserting it into the back, which isn't bad. But again, when it comes to keyholing, like a much more effective way is just to go like this and then put this one in the corner. And another advantage of that is that you only have like one other piece that has like a white corner, which means that the other corner for the corresponding other F2L piece is like stuck in a slot. And if you take advantage of these D layers, you're going to automatically get rid of that other corner piece to bring it back into the top layer, which just makes it a lot easier to solve your subsequent F12 cases. But anyway, so I would have done that, where I can insert this in here and then go like this. But, oops, yeah, you just went like this and you solved. Okay, and then for your third pair, you solved the blue and the orange, and I would agree that's the best pair to solve, but only because solving this one first would be harder to solve this one, because this one has to be solved all the way in the back, and the way that this is right now, it's a lot easier to solve this in the back than if I solve this one here first, because now it's going to be like a bit harder, since once I do this alg right over here, I would destroy the pair that would be over here. So it's best to solve this first, since that we don't have a pair here. And the way that you solved it was pretty standard, which is just like this. And then of course, it's a lot easier to solve these because they're just right in front of you. So I just went like that, pretty standard, no complaints. Then for your OLL, because you're left-handed, you went like this, no complaints there. And then you had an awesome G-perm. Again, your G-perms are different from mine. I'll just put the alg also for what you did versus mine. So your G-perm is like execute from here, and it's like R prime U R U D R2 R prime U R U prime R U prime R2, and then D with the AUF. You executed very well, so good for you. I would have struggled with that execution. The one that I use is basically just like the inverse of that, which is like this. I'll also put it on the screen here so you know. But yeah, that's what I use. In fact, you could probably use the left-handed version of that with, if you like, because you're left-handed, you could probably use my alg, but just use it with your, like, make the left-handed version for this, if it's any easier, but, oops. Up to you, really. Your executions overall are very strong, so whatever you prefer. Okay, so for your fourth solve, what you did was just make all of these an opposites and then solve them. So what you did was like an L prime, and then you inserted these together simultaneously, the red and the blue, and then you did an R2, which was okay, but you have to do like a rotation a bit at the end and a little bit of a regrip to solve this like that. Oops. So what I would have done instead, and especially in considering first pair, is, let's see, yeah, go from here. So I would have executed from like the red here, and again, when I'm thinking of first pair, I want to look at like what corner pieces are not going to be affected, or what's going to bring something up, right? So I see this corner piece here, and I know it's not going to be affected because when I insert this green, when I do like something like this, I insert the red first and then the green, this is going to be over here. So that's going to remain unaffected because when I'm inserting these two, it's not going to be impacting this whatsoever. So that's one option right there. Second option is like this really common trigger that you're going to see quite often, which is like whenever you're inserting these two in this type of case, if you ever see a corner here, it's automatically going to be in the top layer unless something else is going to be affecting it. But yeah, so there are two options that I could do, is just this corner or this corner for my F12, my first F12 pair. Whatever is probably best in terms of like when I was tracking my edge piece in terms of like what's the best case. In this case, it's going to be this one, and I can insert in the back. But yeah. Okay, so then for your first pair, when you were looking around and all that stuff, you determined to do this one, and the way you solved it was like going like this, taking it out, and then solving it in the back like that. One, like, if first of all, what I would have done for first pair is definitely going to be this one, but especially with like look ahead, or sorry, especially with tracking my first pair. But something else that you could have done instead of going like this in the back and doing that is just to bring this out from here like that, and then go like this. But yeah, like, I mean, that's like a minor. I guess like it's kind of like a minor alteration. It's technically less moves, I guess, but not by much. Regardless, I would have probably done this one first, but that's all right. So you went with this, and you insert this in the back here like that. Then for your second pair, what you did was these two, and I think you got like kind of confused on what you were supposed to do, but eventually you split it up and then inserted, which was fine. You could have also opted to do keyhole here with this and like insert it like that, but frankly, like, this is still fine, honestly. So yeah, you just went like this and then you solved, and then you went to solving this, but unfortunately you kind of misread the situation and you try to set it up as like a 3-move insert when it's not, and then you insert like that. Before I tell you like a way to like correct that, one thing I would have done is actually solved this one here with a nifty algorithm, because I'll be inserting this in the back, which means that my last pair is going to have the slot right in front of me, which is obviously a lot easier to solve. So this is how you solve it in the back. I'll put the alg over here on top, and then I just solve this one with another alg like that. But anyway, whenever you get into like that situation where, like, let's say you have like this slot that's inserted correctly, whether you did it or not, whether like you just did the cross and you just see this up like this or whatever, the way to correct this is like that. I'll put the alg again on the screen, but that's pretty like effective in case you want to correct it really quickly, and that's for some reason the best available option that you had. So like, let's say that's like the last pair that you have to solve, do that alg and it'll correct it. But anyway, then you had this case right here before you try to fix this one, and you like your overall alg was pretty standard. One thing I noticed is that you like to use your right index finger a lot for like the U moves. Like, I think I also noticed that in one of the crosses, how you were executing a U move, you use like your right index finger. I think that's a little risky because you can easily like get locked up or not, like it might not work out because it's a little bit of an advanced move. And honestly, you can stick to like simple finger tricks just like this, for instance. So if you're like this, you can go like that and insert here. You don't need to always use the right index finger to push it along like that. It's a little more awkward and technically more risk of getting a lockup or something like that. But anyway, and then you went ahead and inserted it, and then you corrected this. But yeah, use the other correction alg in the event you get something like this, just so it's a little faster to do. And then in terms of your OLL, it was pretty standard, except you used the S version of it, which I like. That's a very advanced execution. Even I can't do that, but you know, oops, yeah, like I struggle with it. But you use the execution quite well, and then you had a G perm, which we already looked at before. It's the same G perm that you did, and yeah, overall great job. Your OLL and PLL algs in terms of execution are amazing. So continue with that, or you can switch to something if you feel like there is something that's faster. But yeah, overall great job with those. Okay, and then in terms of your final solve, I thought your cross was fairly straightforward. It's something that I would have done too. you just use the green and the orange to be in relation with the red, and then you solve the blue at the end. And then first pair was glaringly this one, which you noticed too, which was good. So you just went like this, and you solve like that. Now, the way that you solved this for your first pair, I would have done differently. So what you did was you kind of inserted this like that, and then you inserted it into the back like that. What I instead would have done, especially from like this angle right here, is F, U, and then like this, R, U2, R prime, and then insert this into here. And the really nice thing about this alg is in the event that you ever have slots filled up here, so your pairs are put in here, this would still work because it doesn't affect what's inside here. So just a tip that you can use. And then for your second pair, you did these two over here. So you just went like this, and then again you rotated and did a U. If possible, again, just do like the D prime because it's a lot easier and more efficient. And then you just insert it in the back like this. And then your third pair was the red and the green. So I would have also done the same in terms of, since this is also kind of messed up to execute, this is okay. And you kind of stumbled here, you did like U prime twice, but eventually you got it. You did R, U, R prime, U, and then you insert it in the back like that, which is fine. And then, yeah, then you solve this one, and I would have done the exact same that you did, but there are algs for this. Not that I'm really used, but are there in case you're interested. But yeah, I just went like this and insert it like that. Okay, and then this one, you had an alg which was also pretty good, which is R, U2, F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F2, U2, FR. The alg that I typically use is like this, which I'll paste on the screen over here. Depends on your execution. I kind of like yours a little bit more, I'm not going to lie, but I think they're both pretty good algs, so whatever you prefer. And then you just had your G perm, and I'm just going to execute mine, but yeah. Anyways, that's going to conclude the critiques for Quentin. Overall, with Quentin, I think some of the strengths that you have are definitely with your alg executions. They're really good. Some of the things that you can improve on are just trying to really smoothen that transition from from cross to first pair. And a good way to do that is just by like first doing really simple cross solutions, so nothing too convoluted, even if though the convoluted ones may be more efficient, because at the end of the day, that really smooth transition is what's really going to save you, rather than just solving the cross really fast and then wasting some time trying to find your first pair. So definitely try to prioritize that. I think your algs are really great. And yeah, and then of course practice your look ahead, do some slow solves. I made some videos on all of this stuff, like in terms of cross, your F12, cross to F12 transition, and just look ahead in general, which you can check out. So hopefully those will be of use. And yeah, thank you so much for sending those in. I know I've received some other critiques from, some other submissions for me to critique from other people, which I'll also be getting to. But yeah, thank you so much, Quentin, and I hope everyone else also enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if there's any feedback that I should be aware of. And yeah, thank you all so much, and I'll see you next time.
Hey guys, that's going to be it for me for this video. I hope you found my examples and explanations insightful. Now, to help me improve my content to better fit your learning style, I would really appreciate it if you could spare a couple of seconds just to fill out this feedback form, and its link is in the description. So here you can let me know what went well, what didn't go well, and what aspects you would like me to include or work on in the future. But anyways guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.